I will call our Board of Trustees meeting to order for December 16th, 2024, 7 p.m. Let us all stand for the pledge over this way.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Lucero, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Bartholomew? Here. Edwards? Here. Fowler? Not present. Kerr? Here. Parker?
Present.
Rosso?
Here.
President Poznanski?
Here. And Fowler is an excused absence, if you could note that, please. Moving into our approval of the agenda, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for December 16, 2024 as presented.
Support.
We have a motion by Parker, support by Edwards. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Excuse me. Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There are none opposed. Excuse me one moment. Moving into our approval of the minutes, we have our November 18th, 2024 meeting. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 18th, 2024.
Support.
We have a motion by Edwards, support by Bartholomew. Do we have any discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving minutes as presented?
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? Opposed.
Two.
We have Parker and Rousseau are opposed. Okay. Moving into what would be our council bills. Unfortunately, we do not have them tonight. Our employee who does the bills had an emergency and had to take time off and was unable to fulfill that. So for the time being, we will approve them in-house for emergency, and you will see them next month. You will get 2 months' worth of bills, still ask all your questions and do that. Unfortunately, we just have the one employee. You do still have in here, though, your credit card statement, all of the supporting documentation, if there's any question or discussion there. And then also from our treasurer, with our statements between our two earnings. To date, we have a total revenue of $375,412.85. That is interest earned on our money for the year. No discussion? Okay, we're going to move right into our special presentation. Tonight, we do have a swearing in of a new officer, of which brings us, come on up, guys. I don't know if Chief, if you want to stand in on it at all. It's you. This brings our department to a full department, first time in many years. Officer Joe Hassler. I always wanted to say Hassler. And this is his fiance with him, Melissa. Romeo grad, she is.
Nice.
Have at it.
Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of police officer
of the office of police officer
in and for the village of Romeo,
in and for the village of Romeo,
County of Macomb,
County of Macomb,
and the state of Michigan,
in the state of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Officer Joe starts tomorrow.
Great.
Congratulations, Joe.
Get a good night's sleep.
Awesome.
Okay. So this brings us to the portion of our meeting of public comment. At public comment, you are welcome to come up to the podium. You have 3 minutes to speak on anything you would like. At public comment, the council does not comment back. That is a safe place at the podium where your statement is your statement, and we do not correct it, and we do not inform you. Any questions we can answer later. You can pose questions, we just will not be answering you. You have your time now, and this is the public comment for the meeting. Anybody wishing to make a comment, step up. And please make sure to push the button on the microphone that got turned off. I will give you a 30-second warning when you get close to your 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott McLeod, and before I begin, I want to clarify that I am neither a resident nor a business owner in the village of Romeo. However, as a proud supporter of this community and a passionate advocate for small businesses, I stand before you tonight to speak on behalf of those who may be adversely affected by the new paid parking program, the small businesses. First and foremost, I must express my concern that this parking program, which was developed, seems to stem from a narrow-minded thinking and short-sighted rationale approach. It appears to be based on a flawed inductive reasoning approach, which is, if we charge them, they will pay. This line of thinking is severely limited. Romeo is not Hollywood, and this is not the field of dreams. What was not utilized, apparently, is the most comprehensive deductive approach to reasoning, which prompts us to ask critical questions such as, what could be the consequences of such decisions? How will this impact our cherished downtown businesses? And how might patrons react to this change? Well, allow me to answer those questions for you. This paid parking program will have a devastating impact on the small businesses in Romeo, and as we've seen on social media, the patrons are overwhelmingly against it. When faced with a choice between paying for parking or enjoying the convenience of free parking, the overwhelming majority will opt for free. By removing 25% of the parking spaces in downtown Romeo and placing a fee to use them, 100% of the patrons will gravitate towards the 75% of the remaining available free parking, which will exacerbate the already existing parking shortage. By the way, it is 25%, not the 4% that they've been trying to sell you. When patrons can't find free parking, they will likely drive up the road in either direction to support a business that offers free parking. For instance, I enjoy dining at Peach's Brunch House. However, if patrons need to pay for parking there, they may instead choose to visit their nearby establishments like Crave, Romeo Family Restaurant, or Times Square, which offer, guess what, free parking. Similarly, while I regularly order pizza from Mr. B's, if parking fees are involved, I would be inclined to choose the liquor store just up the road, which provides equally good pizza and free parking. Moreover, there's a fantastic new barbecue joint in town, JL's, which currently has only 6 parking spots that I can tell. One challenge they will undoubtedly encounter is non-customers taking up those limited spots. When JL's customers come for dinner and find no available parking, they will likely opt to go to K-Blocks, which offers, guess what, free parking. Let me make one thing very clear. I love K-Blocks and the other restaurants I mentioned and have the utmost respect and support for all these fine establishments, which I mentioned in the area. However, by implementing this paid parking program, the Village of Romeo's trustees and the DDA are inadvertently handing an unfair advantage to the businesses located outside the village over the very businesses they should be supporting and nurturing inside the village. These examples which I use are just a few of the many businesses which will be hurt. This parking program will negatively affect the cash flow and the revenue of most of our village businesses. This situation is deeply concerning, and I implore you to reconsider this approach and its consequences before it's too late on the businesses of Romeo. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have more public comment?
Mary Meisner, Village of Romeo. I agree with everything this man just presented, but I want to point out some things. In the area around the Village Park, you have Starkweather Alley, which there are no paid employees at Starkweather. They're all volunteers, and they're all older people, and in order to volunteer there, they will have to seek out a parking spot that's not located near Starkweather, and they'll have to walk in. Then you have, on the opposite end, you have the Masonic Temple, which twice a year, they host the Parks and Recreation, 2 sessions of the Santa breakfast and the Easter breakfast, and all of those people will be looking for small children, looking for places to park, or they will have to pay. Then you have Peach Festival, where you have 1,500 kids that come to Peach Fest, besides all the other activities in the town. I just don't know, are these parking rules going to be off and on? How about Jeep night and bike night in front of the office pub? Is it going to be, they'll be exempt for that night? No one will know. We attract people from all different communities. Once they get a parking citation, they will stay away from Romeo. I think that the residents of the Village of Romeo deserved a town hall meeting. The DDA board is appointed. You people are elected. We are your constituents. I think that we needed to have a heads up before we got the infamous flyer in our mail. So I hope you will think about what you're doing, because I would hate to see downtown Romeo killed, and that's what will happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comment? Okay, going once, twice. That is the end of public comment. The rest of this meeting will be the council's meeting. Moving into our officer reports. I'll start with our trustees. Trustee Bartholomew, do you have a report?
Not this time.
Trustee Edwards?
No.
Trustee Rousseau?
Attended an ethics committee, subcommittee meeting. The tree board has changed their monthly meeting from the second Thursday of the month to the third Thursday of the month, I believe effective January. Yep. That's it.
Okay.
I'm good.
Trustee Kerr?
Yeah, I want to touch on the parking stuff a little bit. Trustee Bartholomew and I sat on a subcommittee with the DDA, and we worked on it together, and a lot of the same problems, comments, and issues that I saw on Facebook that people are talking about here tonight, we addressed. Is it a perfect plan? Do we know exactly how it's going to go? No. We had a 6-month commitment, a very short commitment. There's little to no startup costs. We don't have a ton invested into this. A big thing that I'm seeing is that this isn't like the sentiment, if we charge them, they will pay. We're not being greedy. We have an issue. We have 5-6 lots. I think the best lot, besides the new one by the post office, is like a 4 out of 10. They're all poor. We have no means of repaving them. We have no means of getting new lots built or paved in the future unless we just bleed it out of the general fund. So all we're trying to do is have a source of revenue for our future expenditures. I appreciate the comments. Nobody's trying to pull a blanket over anybody's head. This has been on the agenda now for 5-6 months where we've discussed it. We've had public meetings. I'm not going to ramble on and on, but I'm really happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk about it. ncare@villageofromeo.org. I'd be happy to answer your questions and hear you guys out.
Clerk Lucero?
I really don't have much. I was out for a week or so due to a death in the family. So,
turn your mic on.
oh, oops. So I don't have much. If I could just skip ahead just a little bit, because I did speak to the supervisor of Bruce. They called me with regards to Bruce Sewer. They wanted to talk a little bit more to get a date for that. He was supposed to email me. He did not. Other than that, that's the only thing I really have to report at this time.
Okay.
Other than that, happy holidays, and I hope everybody has a good New Year.
Chief, would you report?
Evening, everybody. I don't have a lot tonight. Very successful first Christmas parade, which was fantastic. It was extremely cold, and we thought that was going to really knock the numbers down. My first year, so I can't gauge it on any of the previous years, but everybody tells me it grew. So apparently the cold weather and snow made people feel festive, but went without a hitch, so that was fantastic. The only thing I had to present during this meeting was what we discussed a little bit in the last meeting, the mobile data computers in the cars that are 30 years old and failing. Evidently, it didn't make it onto the agenda tonight, so I won't go too deep into it. I guess I'll present it again next meeting. But I indicated to you that I would have more firm numbers for you tonight, and I have those for you to ask me questions tonight or at any time, or digest this information. Keep in mind, we have 4 computers in 4 cars. They are failing. They're at least 30 years old. We've had them for 20 years, and we purchased them used after Sterling Heights retired them. Additionally, the camera systems that you guys approved for the cars are in the basement of the police department because these computers will not, they're so old and antiquated, they will not support the software for the camera systems. So new computers in the cars are a must. I was going to present a new possibility for a report writing system, a records management system, property room system, which is Clemis, which is all-encompassing. I was asked to table that for a while, but Clemis was generous enough to offer us their computers, their hardware that they get for multiple counties, hundreds of agencies. They get them at the best rate. For the computers, the modems, and the hardware is going to be about $18,811. The downside to that is they have an installation crew at Clemis, but they can't install the computers if you're not a Clemis member, which means we have to go to a third-party vendor. The company that builds our cars for us is Winder Police Supply in Southgate, and their quote for that is going to be another $11,200 for a little bit over $30,000 for the computers and the installation. Now, keep in mind, I know I was asked to table Clemis, and I have, but if it's something that you will entertain, if we were to just rip off the Band-Aid and go to Clemis, their first year initial buy-in that includes all this equipment and includes the installation is about $42,000. So for just under $12,000 more, we will have the whole package. We can certainly go with purchasing the equipment from them at the cheapest rate and having a third-party vendor install it, but that doesn't change the fact that we have to change a platform at some point in the near future and go digital. And it seems like not doing that now is saving $1 now. It's going to cost us $2 later. So just something to think about. I have the proposal for Clemis written if you want to read it. If you want to discuss the computer systems and the installation more, I'm open to questions now, or we can discuss it at any time.
Did you bring copies for us, or is that?
We had a second packet sent out. That's what it was, yes.
Okay.
So but I don't believe that included the Clemis items?
No.
Okay.
No, because I was asked to table it.
So I asked Chief, I said, what do we have to have? Just do that. But then in doing this research, might as well include that, because yes, if we're going to spend 11 to just have them installed, why not spend a bit more, get everything we need and have it already? At least we're paying for something that we get and we get to use and benefit from. So we'll have the options. We'll do that all next month. But we wanted to get you that info anyway, so we sent out those extra packets.
Keep this in mind, too. These seem like big numbers, but Clemens, the Clemens price, so that's the year one, purchase all the equipment, their staff comes in and installs, it trains, unlimited training. After that, it's about $10,000 a year. I have the exact numbers that I can provide you later or next month. But the renewal every year is significantly less once we have the system on board. Second part of this presentation are the radios. The radios, I think you guys, because this predated me, I think the former chief let you know that the radios, some of the mobile radios were failing. That's also occurring with the in-car radios. They're all extremely old. He ordered the prep radios, the handheld radios, prior to my arrival. They've taken some time, but they are likely to be here at the beginning of January. We do owe for those radios. They're in the QTB program next. The total for the mobile radios, the new in-car radios, the programming, and the dispatch console that will have to go along with them because they're all equipped the same, is going to be $42,020.98.
That was already approved, correct?
I'd have to go back and check. I want to say half of that was approved.
Well,
But we never spent it in that budget year,
Yeah,
so
so-
to find that money, I'd have to ask Plant Moran to pinpoint that for us.
Madam President, if I can follow up on that. You're right, and it's of nobody's fault here. Not trying to pass blame, I'm just trying to explain how it happened. So the mobile radios, or I'm sorry, the prep radios, the handheld radios, they were ordered by the former chief. And when I started looking into what the delay was on those, I learned that in-car radios and the dispatch console were not ordered. He kicked that can down the road, thought we could get it another year. Unfortunately, they won't communicate. If we get the prep radios without the in-car radios, the encryption won't talk. That's how old the equipment is. So we had to order the in-car radios to go along with them. Otherwise, the prep radios are useless. That's how that happened. So, sir, you're right. I think you probably are recalling that the prep radio was being approved and ordered.
Yeah.
But the second half of that was not.
Okay.
But those radios, dispatch would not have been able to talk to them. And conversely, they would not be able to talk to dispatch because the encryption codes would not match.
And both of these needs are above and beyond your normal budget?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, anything at this point, the budget did not include these items as we're discovering them. At the time, we knew we needed money back when we were doing budget talks. We didn't know how much, so we weren't able to best budget for it. I think we threw in a certain amount and we're like, maybe that's close, but.
When I talked to you after my first month analysis of the critical state of things, these pieces of equipment were on that list. And I think I mentioned a couple meetings ago, Clemens, or at least at minimum, the replacement of the car computers was the final 25% of that infrastructure. After that, you I think were the one that asked me one time, why isn't this stuff planned out over the course of years? Why isn't it replaced when it needed to be replaced instead of all at once? And you're exactly right. And everything that we purchase now has a end date that I already know what that date is or what that year is, and I'm spreadsheeting it out. This will never happen again. When these things fail or they have to be updated, and it's technology, and it sometimes has to be, it will happen over the course of years instead of all at once, which is what we've kind of run into this year.
When Chief Roy got here, we kind of saw this, and he asked the question, how did this happen? And he went back to the accountants, and correct me if I'm wrong, but over the span of I don't remember the amount of years, but it's because we continually came in our police budget under budget to the tune of almost $600,000. So we had budgeted money to care for the police, but there was a mentality of it looked better to save money when actually now it's costing us. It would have been cheaper at that point to buy those items and maintain our police force than now. But that was kind of how we figured out how we got here.
You're correct on that. I pulled the last 5 years, prior to me, last 5 years' budget, trying to figure out how we got to this point. And in the 5 years prior to me, between dispatch and police, $603,000 was given back.
Every budget.
If that had been spent, all of these things that I talked about in month one that were critical are nowhere near $603,000. So this could have been kept up on. We wouldn't have been in this position where all of our equipment is failing at once. But
I feel we need to make this a priority. Safety of the community, safety of our officers. I mean, not having computers on board and proper radios.
Well, there will be no work if they cannot work. So they need their equipment in order to be out there doing their job.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge safety issue, so.
Yep.
What's the turnaround time if you had ordered these items? Like, how long are they?
computers?
Yeah.
Well, they have it in stock. If we were to go with Clemens in general, they would have to get that on their schedule to get their team over to install the software. There's an out-of-county onboarding fee. What's interesting is we're currently on a platform called Core Technology. And it looks on the budget, if you look on the budget, it looks, wow, that's really cheap. Why can't we just keep that? And that'll sustain us. One, there's no digital element of that. Everything we do is handwritten. They offer a digital element for everything, just like Clemens, but everything's a la carte. You have to flip that switch. You turn all those things on with Core Technologies, they're actually more expensive than Clemens, and they don't have an out-of-county onboarding fee. So Clemens was, as I'll discuss more, their out-of-county onboarding fee is a little over $9,000. They've agreed to split that up into 4 payments, interest fee, if that's what's more convenient for us. We can pay it at once, or tack that on to the $10,000 yearly renewal, and pay it over the course of 4 years. But Clemens is a platform I used for 30 years in West Bloomfield, and I got to tell you, you've probably heard me say the gold standard quite a bit, but they are. I've used now Core Technology for 7 months, and the two they don't belong in the same room as far as I'm concerned. And as it turned out, Core is more expensive than Clemens once the features are turned on. Clemens, everything comes as one package. E-citations, e-logs, e-property room management, e-impounds. I mean, everything is digital and operated through the NDCs. So a lot of benefits to that we can discuss next month or after this meeting. But yeah, that would be was going to be my recommendation all along, and it drilled it home when I learned that what we already have is actually more expensive once we turn the features on.
Okay.
Chief, do you feel comfortable waiting on this till next month?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to need competitive quotes.
They're kind of a,
He's got the 2.
Clemens is really a single,
I guess that's a good point.
I have one question I'd like to ask Chief. Chief, I already know the answer, but just so everybody else can be informed, you talk about a digital system. What is the feedback from the court systems, given our practices and other agencies' practices?
So Judge Andery is not thrilled that we are the last holdout. We are the last agency with a court system that is still writing handwriting citations. It's creating a problem for her, translating people's handwriting. Frankly, when I came here, folks, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions, I didn't think it was allowed anymore. I mean, e-citations have been around for 20 years. I didn't know that courts were allowing people to write them by hand anymore. But 42-1 is, but we are the holdout.
So back to your question, Mr. Edwards, is there more than one company that offers this? Should we be getting other bids? Can we get other bids? You tell us.
Well, there are only a couple, as far as the platform is concerned, and two of them I just mentioned, Clemens and Core.
Okay.
There's a company that they use in Sterling Heights. I'm just blanking on the name. It's the third one in the area. But I have talked to many chiefs, and all of them that are on it say run. They're doing fast. So I didn't even get a quote from them.
So we can get more quotes, but they won't be apples to apples. They won't even,
Well, I just don't want to get, in the January meeting, I don't want to get this in front of me, and have somebody say, hey, we got to have 2 more quotes, and scuttle it for another month.
understood. If that's what we would like, we can do that. So at least we have the documentation, but again, to your point, if that's what the board wants, let us know right now.
I think if Chief's comfortable with Clemis, it's something he's familiar with, he knows. Their quotes, we already have 2 essentially.
Got to,
It's fine with me, I just don't want to end up January, whatever,
I agree,
and
yeah.
have it get scuttled for another month, because we have issues.
you can say it, because I like to follow the policy.
I have 30 years
You
of
can
history
say
with it. I've talked to many people, and I have hours of time into putting these presentations together. I can go look for another option. I don't think that option is going to come anywhere near this. It's just going to be time spent. And that third option would be New World. And I didn't spend that time because I listened to my peers, other chiefs, who all have said, and I'm telling you all as in, not one said, look into New World, and all said, no. It's a system that can stand. So,
And from what I'm understanding and learning from Chief is that Clemis has a larger database that we then can, we have access to when, go ahead and explain.
So Clemens has all of Oakland County, they're an Oakland County platform, but they have most of Wayne County, most of Macomb County, some of southern Macomb County rather, Washington County, they have all of St. Clair County now. Hundreds of agencies are on Clemens, which means we would have access to all of their data. Right now, we have access to the Village of Romeo's data.
Right, so when they want to look up something, they just see only what we've ever found.
Which is another officer safety issue. One of the officers are on a traffic stop with somebody and wants to find out a little bit more about their history. They can only see their history in the Village of Romeo. They can't see all the police contacts they've had in the southeast Michigan region.
Do you know about Lapeer? Is Lapeer County?
Lapeer is also on Clemens, not entirely, but about a half of Lapeer. Actually, since the last time I looked into it, they might be on completely on Clemens now. Lapeer County Sheriff's Office dispatches for most of the Lapeer agencies, and they are on Clemens, so. It is the gold standard law enforcement information, evidence room management system out there right now. And I have a lot of experience with it. Like I said, I used it for 30 years, and I saw its progression over the course of 30 years. They are constantly keeping up with advancements, and when those things happen, they come in and they update the systems, and they, again, unlike CORE, which provides 4 hours of free training, after that is $250 an hour, Clemens is free training, however long it takes to get everybody up to speed on it.
Yeah, if you have that information then for next month, you know, compare what you got, I think we can figure something out next month.
Chief, does the state police have their own?
State police is on their own system.
So potentially next month, we'd see the $18,000 hardware, the $42,000 first-year buy-in for Clemis, and does that include the hardware for in the office as well, for like the record-keeping stuff?
Yeah, that includes the computer upgrades in the, well, we already have the computers. We approved that fairly quick because the
Yeah.
computers were so old and slow. But it's really software, not computers.
Okay.
They bring their team in, install the software, run the lines to get it to communicate with Macomb County, which is where they charge the out-of-county onboarding fee.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, everything that I have proposed is a one-shot stop with Clemens. All the computers, the hardware. What I didn't have on here because it wasn't necessary were the printers and the driver's license swipers. Well, if we weren't on any digital system, there was no sense paying for that stuff, right? That comes with the Clemens program. And they install it as well at their warehouse in Oakland County.
When we do onboard new officers, do we do the training for that, or will they come in and do the training in the future?
It could be either or. So it's been, in my experience, I was the FTO coordinator in West Memphis for a number of years. In the FTO program, we could train our own officers how to use the Columbus platform. But when there are upgrades or changes to the platform that we all need to learn, Clem's team comes in and provides the training. But the daily operation of the platform, we teach it in-house ourselves.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your work. I will move into my president report. I do have just a few things to mention regarding the parking. I wanted to give a bit of a timeline, just to bring us all back to how we got to where we're at. So this starts all the way back in October of 2021. That's when the motion was actually passed to assign the $10,500 per spot for payment in lieu of for parking fees. That was applied to new businesses that would come in. So new businesses that would have to come in would need to pay $10,500 a parking space. If you needed more than one, it was for every parking space. This has been discussed no less than a dozen meetings. I went back and I printed off, tried to find all the different meetings. I have almost 15, and there's probably more, but at least a dozen times since October of 21, and obviously before 21, because we didn't just make that decision on October of 21. That was just the starting point. You had to give a point of reference. Since that time, the village council then created a subcommittee. When I took office, there was no implementation for this. So I came in and there was businesses coming in that needed parking. I said to, at that time, our now resigned clerk, Catherine Trapp, institute it. And she said, I don't know how. We never created a way to do it. So at that point, we created a subcommittee to do the steps necessary for the 10-5. At that point, it became apparent there were a few different business owners that joined that with the clerk. And I want to say there might have been a DDA member, but I cannot recall. They weren't in favor of the fee. So there was no more discussion at that subcommittee because they didn't want the fee anyways. So we're not going to figure this out. So when this became apparent, we waited a few different months. We just dissolved that subcommittee here at the council. That's when we met with between the village and the DDA. We had a joint meeting this June, on June 27th. There's meeting minutes, there's a video, you can watch it all. That meeting, the discussion, the only point on the agenda was to discuss the parking in lieu of payment ordinance. We have all sat here in this room, we discussed back and forth, creative ideas, how we would do this, what we needed to do. Two major things. Capital improvement, meaning your parking lots. If you walk in them, we can all see that they need improvement. The other part was upkeep. The flower beds around them, garbage corrals. There's only one quadrant with a village garbage corral. Businesses would like more in the other quadrants, in the other spaces. How do we create this when currently what we generate in revenue hardly or just about snow plowing, salting, maintenance, throwing down some cold patch? There has not been, similar to our issue with the police, historically, we have not been putting money aside, saving for the future. So since June, another subcommittee was created. This time, DDA members and our two village council members, Trustee Kerr and Trustee Bartholomew, they were tasked with finding the creative solutions and coming back to the council. They came back in July, and with the support and request from the DDA, the joint subcommittee, they came to the village on July 15th, and a motion was made by Kerr and supported by Trustee Fowler, he's not here tonight, to allow the DDA to explore and implement paid parking solutions along Main Street and around the village park with review in 6 months, which would be January. This was approved by Bartholomew, Edwards, Fowler, myself, and Kerr. It was opposed by Rousseau, and Parker was absent that evening. That is how we got here. That's at least the general bare bones of the facts of how we got here. Moving into the rest of my report, I've applied for another grant. This one is a bit smaller, but every dollar counts. So applied for a SEMCOG grant for another PACER rating. Rating is recommended to be done at least every 3 years. Our last rating was done in 2020. This will give us a good base for the most recent paved roads, while also allowing us to see at what rate the roads that are yet to be done are deteriorating at. I will find out, I believe it's a few months, wouldn't be done till the spring anyways. Over the month, I was able to represent Romeo at the annual State of the County address and the Santa Parade and Village tree lighting. I had a meeting at Amanda Moore, their new principal, Amy, it's another ski, but still, Wojciechowski, reached out requesting a meeting. She's interested in collaborations with the village. Being that this is the elementary that serves our student residents, I believe a mutually supportive relationship would be beneficial to us all. She has some good ideas, back and forth sharing between the village and the elementary. I think it will all go well. We had our water verification public meeting here on December 3rd. Had a handful of residents attend. For those who are unaware, this verification is response to a state mandate, and we were able to get a grant from Eagle assisting us with the confirming of the current, what they call unknown possible lead verifications, over $300,000 for that. Also then, update on our tree grant. After our last meeting, we approved the reimbursement grant. George Smith and myself had an onboarding meeting on December 6th. We're good to go. The tree board can lock in a vendor and a contract, and we can get the project moving. Board member George Smith and myself, we will be the ones tracking the required updates and reimbursement request submissions. Having now a few grants under my belt, this one is a little less, so we're hoping to be able to handle it ourselves without needing to expend any more funds on that. An update on our Reckling Park, that additional survey, a survey monkey was done and posted since December 4th. Since that time, we've received an additional 35 responses, which is encouraging. We had 17 show up the day of that meeting out at the park. The survey will be live for 2 more days, which is December 18th. So you still have time to fill out the survey if you have not done so. My report for the DDA meeting, I attended the DDA meeting for the December. Our interim executive director, Christina Shepard-Decius, has been onboarding our newly appointed executive director, Kay Poschert, who is here in the audience here. Okay. The park mobile signage is to go up as soon as we get the things to put it up, along with the training videos that will be available on the DDA website, and an informative mailer that was sent out to the residents the first week of December. The DDA is working on a multimodal streetscape conceptual planning services request. It's a mouthful. This is in an effort to improve the walkability and multimodal options along Main Street, as well as connecting to the trail. This request for quotes was made of architectural firms to develop conceptual plans and a budget that then can be used for 2 potential grants the interim executive director, interns, and Fort County Foundation have been exploring. These things are needed to even apply for these grants. So we're going to get a quote, see how much they are. And the DDA is receiving quotes for workers' comp insurance. Things to note. Our EV TIP, the electric vehicle transportation initiative with the Ford closure, we had our initial onboarding meeting and a follow-up for detailed clarifications. Our next steps are we will be identifying key stakeholders, and we'll do the Crimson will be coming to do a site visit here in the village. And as a refresher, this is the business attraction strategy and downtown signage proposal, which is also being covered by a $100,000 grant. Please put this date on your calendar. Thursday, January 30th, 7 p.m. It is the 30th because our normal village council meeting, which would be the 3rd Monday, is actually the 4th Monday in January because of a holiday. So this meeting is set in place. This is, since the failure of the Headley rollback on this November's ballot, myself, along with Clerk Lucero, are working with our village engineering and accounting to come up with an action strategy and options to allow the village to continue to move forward. Please make a point to attend. I will be asking Mitt TV to videotape it in the event you can't. Resident and elected involvement in the future planning of our village is imperative. Not having this rollback brought our capability to continue with the village-wide road project to a halt. But more importantly, has made maintenance and upgrades to our failing infrastructure a challenge at best and impossible at worst. So I ask you to please attend and see where the village is at. A couple other things to note over the month. There were some House bills coming through at Lansing, and SEMCOG sends, being a member of SEMCOG, they give us updates when there are things that they see as important to our village. So they've reached out and pointed out a few things. So I reached out to Governor Whitmer urging support for House Bills 4274 and 4275, sent a letter, and these were in regards to the Revenue Sharing Trust Fund. This would enable the village to have known revenue coming in. It would be predictable. The other ones, I reached out, this one to our Representative Shriver, and requested that he opposed the House bills 6095, 6096, 6097, and 6098. To give you some detail, this legislation would shift zoning decisions from the elected officials to developers. It allows developers to, by right, change any single family into a duplex. Currently, if the public doesn't like the decisions of locals, they can vote them out. But you can't vote out developers who, under these bills, would have more control than ever on how a community would be developed. So I want you to know, I did reach out to Representative Shriver. One of his representatives spoke to me, said he would pass that on. Always fighting for the village in all areas here, you guys. Moving into our subcommittees, Clerk Lucero, you touched on sewer. Is that sufficient? Is there anything else?
Yeah, Supervisor Philbrook reached out to me also, stated the same thing, he wanted to get a date on the book, so.
Okay. You touched on ethics. Do we want to, is there anything else? Nolan and Shelley and myself are on the ethics subcommittee. We met, we discussed, we're going to start putting some things together. We're going to meet again and start ripping that apart and adding to it as we see fit. I did want to add one more thing to my report. I had forgotten. Bruce Supervisor had reached out. Bruce is looking to have a full-time officer on duty. And so they've reached out to Romeo. They will be reaching out to the county and to Romeo. One officer 24/7 said we would get him a quote. Obviously, I don't know if it will be competitive or not, but being neighbors, being close, we'll see what we can do, and Chief is also working on that too.
Would this be in place of the Macomb County Sheriff?
They're looking to,
Excuse
well,
me.
they don't actually contract any.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're looking to actually implement having an officer on call at all times. So,
Great.
yeah. Met with supervisor and treasurer, pointed out, gave them our budget, showed them what it costs for us to have a police department, and that just having an officer on doesn't mean you only hire one more officer. We need multiple officers. It would be sharing in the chief's salary, because they would be utilizing our chief for theirs, vehicles, equipment. There are some things that need to be looked at and quoted. But my suggestion was similar to our wastewater. We can go by percentages, how much they use, especially when it comes to dispatch. We can assume, we can look at their call volume for the last year or whatever, but maybe people didn't reach out because they didn't have someone. So I would think that those might be under what they will be once they get a full-time officer. But again, we can work that out in contracts down the road if we actually get that far. But just wanted you guys to know that we're headed that way, at least quoting it, and we'll see what happens.
We've been talking about that for a long time.
Yep. So that way, if you see it or hear it at the Bruce Township meeting or around,
Okay.
that is, we're going to quote it, see where we get. Okay, moving into our unfinished business. We have our TMF Exterior Verification RFP Award. This was in response to our Eagle lead line verifications with the grant. We had a good handful reply to the RFP. We are not this is a statewide mandate, so we are not the only municipality. So a lot of businesses are applying, grab the money. You do have your letter here from HRC. They give you the bid tabulation. They do make their recommendation. Do we have a motion so we can discuss? I'll throw out the motion for HRC's suggested Dukes in the amount of $124,360.65. So we have a motion by Boznansky, support by Parker. We can discuss. Again, this is grant money. Doesn't mean that we don't need to be conscientious of it.
I have two questions. One of them was, they're recommended for Dukes, which fabulous, it's the lowest price. But if you look at the very bottom line, 13, their permit allowance is only $1, whereas the other two bids are $1,500 and $5,000. So it's not so much the money amount that I am concerned. However, are they not getting a permit? Like, why is there's $1 and the others aren't?
Mm-hmm.
And also, yeah, it looks like a lot of their savings that are lower than the others are driveway and sidewalk and curb stop. I don't know if it's more like concrete repair or infrastructure repair stuff that they're just not quoting. I don't know if it's apples to apples or not, but it seems like those are the only things that they're cheaper on.
Yes, there's a couple, that's the other one I was gonna point out was, I mean, they have $400, and then the other ones have $1,845, so are they not including something, or? I'm just concerned we wouldn't get the same level of service. Are these apples to apples?
Well, if you could assume, which, can get us in trouble, but how about Roth and Clark is making the engineering decision to be able to go with these people? So unless we ask them, I guess, that's where they have them in, what they're thinking of, and, they must think it's okay. That's, again,
Yeah.
it's an assumption that it's here, and they're suggesting it, and they are our engineering group.
Good point.
And not to throw a wrench into it, but Tim, if you could, which one, we have worked with one of them in the past. Which one was that? So the second one was the one that we've worked with in the village in the past. Tim has a working relationship.
Our experience with them,
And they're close. And
Yeah.
they're 10 miles away as opposed to 2 states away, at least their headquarters.
That's true.
I like Chartier.
Well, we have a motion on the table. Let's do a roll call, and then we can continue on with it. Could you call the roll? It was to go with Dukes, is what we're voting on right now.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Edwards?
No.
Care?
No.
Parker?
no.
Russell?
No.
Woznansky?
No. Okay, do we have another motion?
I'll make a motion to go with ML Chartier Excavating in the amount of $156,566.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Support.
same numbers.
A lot of fives in there.
We have a motion by Parker, support by Care. Do we have any more discussion with us? Hearing none, could you call the roll, please?
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Care?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Russell?
Yes.
President Woznansky?
Yes. Moving on to our proposed ordinance review for the short-term rental. Have on here at our December 5th Planning Commission meeting, the motion is seen below, was made regarding the item. And the motion was, a short-term rental update was given by our village planner, Karen LeVere, and the motion was by Mitt from Mr. Minton for the Planning Commission to send this along to the village council for consideration. So tonight, what we are doing is we are not just in short approving this, but we are approving what we're looking at to give it back to the Planning Commission if they would for sure want this. They will send it back for, they need to do a public hearing, and then it will come back to us officially. But they don't want to go through the steps if we're going to send it back.
I like it.
Yeah, short, sweet, simple.
I'll read it really quick for the audience. The short-term prohibition of short-term rentals. Short-term rentals are prohibited in all zoning districts. A short-term rental is defined as a dwelling or part or portion thereof that is available to accommodate the lodging of guests paying a fee, charge, or other compensation for a period of 28 or fewer consecutive days and nights at a time. This includes tourist homes, vacation rentals, Airbnbs, verbos, and the like, while excluding bed and breakfast establishments as regulated in sections 46-153, 46-233, and 46-273.
Do we need a motion, or just
Yeah,
tell
go
them we
ahead.
like it?
Make it
and that's
official.
good?
Give us a motion.
I like it. We're not adopting the ordinance, so I'll make the motion to send this back to Planning Commission to go to public hearing, as written.
Support.
We have a motion by Care. We have support by Edwards. Do we have any discussion?
I have a quick question, and you're on planning, so you might be able to answer. What about like accessory dwelling units or anything, like, because this just says,
It's all.
oh,
I
It's
feel
not allowed
like-
in any zoning district at
okay.
all.
So
When it
that'll
says-
include someone's got
It's
a
an
she
all,
shed.
partial, all, yeah.
Dwelling or part or portion thereof. I feel like that means house, garage, out,
Yeah, I
out,
did
she
too,
shed,
so you got to the
any of
bottom,
it.
and it said tourist homes, vacation rentals, so I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Because I don't think we're supposed to have living space and auxiliary dwellings anyways.
Right, campers, whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
We go with discussion. All in favor of approving and sending this back to the Planning Commission as is? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We do not have opposed. Moving into our rules of procedure update. This is coming back to us. We've seen it a couple times. This was just putting it in final formal form. Do we have a motion?
Shelley did a lot of good work on this, thank you.
I will make a motion to approve the rules of procedure as presented with the updates.
Support.
So we have a motion by myself, support by Parker. Do we have discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? We do not have any opposed. Commencing from January, we will be having public comment now at the beginning and at the end of the meeting. It's one of the new rules of procedure. Fence ordinance update. I believe.
Saw it last month, came back, and it's highlighted as requested. And if there's any questions, if you guys went through it. The biggest changes were some language changes, and then the corner fencing, defining what the corner is.
And pictures.
Yeah. Any questions? I'll make a motion to approve the residential fencing regulation ordinance as presented.
Support.
And we are similarly sending this back
Sending it
to the
back
Planning Commission
for
for
public
public hearing.
Question
Yes.
on page 3, number 7. It says fences with spikes or similar pointed tops. We do have fences in the village with the little pointy and I don't know
Like
if
the
that's what they're
cemetery?
getting at.
Like the cemetery.
Oh, yeah, that one too, yeah. Yeah, but there are residential fences with
Yep.
that, so I don't know if you want to,
That's currently in language.
it should be if it's in black here.
Yeah, we didn't change that.
Well, if they're already existing, we're not making people tear out their existing fences, so I guess just going forward, they wouldn't be able to install new ones like that?
Yeah.
We
that's
don't
my
need
question.
children falling off bikes and impaling themselves.
Right.
Those fences are pretty tall.
Yeah.
There's a couple, there's
You have to have a
none
really
on
large bike to fall
St.
off.
Clair
At the
that I
cemetery,
can-
but then there are
Yeah,
some
but
in the
residential.
residential
They're
that are a
still
little bit
4 foot
lower.
tall.
What's that?
They would still be 4 foot tall, those fences.
There's one on Main.
That's all.
Yeah,
Either way.
Yeah.
okay, just. so
I
you
understand the
guys
safety, the
realize
idea of it.
It's in there, okay.
Okay, the motion, part of me was by Parker,
Yes.
and who was the support?
Nathan.
By
Oh, okay.
Edwards. All in favor of sending back to the planning commission as is? Aye.
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 Do we have any opposed? We have none opposed. Moving into not so much fun, our AT&T settlement agreement. We've been walking through this. We've found out that we did owe this money. I went back to AT&T and said, okay, well, what can we work out? So they said, are accepting 12 installments over the next year, dividing it into 5,001. That's, the amount was correct. That was something Mark had pointed out. They're missing a number in there. Anyways, the $61,000 divided by 12.
So there's no interest?
No, if we do what
Agree
we,
to this.
yes. Mark, would you mind speaking to your, I asked Mark to look over it. He had a few just basic, again, the amount of money was one of them.
Right. In the initial draft that was presented to Mrs. Poznanski, the monthly payment was incorrectly stated. That's been corrected. There were a couple of other items in the draft I reviewed that appear to be changed in this. Maybe it's my oversight, I hope not. There was in the initial draft what is called a confession of judgment, and what that concerned me, or why that concerned me is a confession of judgment is very common between creditors and debtors, particularly when they work out a resolution where the creditor says to the debtor, okay, I'll compromise the debt in this way, either monthly payments, a lower principal amount, whatever it might be. But if you default, then you, ahead of time, you now confess or agree to the entry of a judgment against you in the full amount, less any payments that you've already made. And confessions of judgment, as I mentioned, are common, and as long as you're aware of them and you agree to it, there's not an issue. But sometimes people are surprised by those if there's a default, and then the whole amount is demanded, and then sometimes misinformed, the reaction is, well, now I want my day in court. It's too late. If you confess a judgment ahead of time, you don't dispute the amount, you've already agreed to it, hence the term confession of judgment. The other part, which I think was removed, the jurisdiction, if there was a dispute, it was going to be in the state of New York. I would gladly go if you sent me there to defend the village, but it's not economically or practically a good idea. And it looks like they've narrowed that down to there would only be arbitration if there's a dispute over the agreement, or you claim a payment, they say you didn't make a payment, whatever it might be. You're not going to be able to go behind it. You're not going to be able to say, well, now we don't want to pay the $61,000. It's just if there's a breach of the settlement or a claimed breach of the settlement agreement. And now they've narrowed it to the American Arbitration Association in Detroit, again, a common body to resolve disputes. So that seems to be taken care of. I think in terms of my concerns, they've been addressed, and so it's just a matter of whether you want to agree to what is essentially a payment plan.
And what you're looking at is what Mr. Clark has. I did not adjust it at all.
We
These were
need to
just
look
his comments to,
Paragraph- Sorry, 2.1, the monthly payment needs to be corrected.
yes, that's what I said, that it was missing a number. I just looked it up. It should be 5,119. So they missed a 1 in there
Okay.
in 71 cents.
Right.
That's
It's
what I
not
have.
519 a month.
No, mine
it's-
just says 5,019.
Isn't that right?
No, it's missing a number.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Playing tricks on me.
So these were items that I asked Mr. Clark to look at it. This is what he has pointed out. I have no reason to disagree and ask for these updates.
No, I think it's a good resolution to the problem.
Yeah, unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, but at least it doesn't gouge us all at once.
I would like to suggest if I could do this one last Hail Mary in going back to them and asking, in correcting these items, would the council be willing to offer one lump sum if we just pay you 30 now or we pay you 40 now and be done, as opposed to dividing the 61 over 12 months? Or would you rather be able to make interest off of the money sitting in there? Which way would you,
Could save
Would you like-
$20,000, that'd be for that.
Yeah.
would you be amenable to any amount under 60? Where would you want me to kind of land at to be worth it to not do the 12-month payment? My thought is 30 to 40, half, 50%, or just over 50.
Yeah, that's what I thought we were gonna, I was hoping you were coming back with.
This is what they
So-
offer. They just,
Yeah.
of course, they want all of it.
For 20% less than the
Yeah.
total, I think.
I would.
Anything greater than that, I would just say you have that authority to do that. As
Okay.
long as it's at least 20% in a lump sum
I'm gonna-
discount.
I'll throw it out there and going back and saying, well, with this contract, these items, but what if we did this? See if they take it. Okay.
You want a motion?
No, because even I would still bring it back. I mean, I don't think AT&T is hurting for money. I don't think they're collapsing without our,
Oh, so this doesn't, okay, so we can wait, we don't need to do this.
I'm going to say we wait till January.
All right.
Conversation between the two parties, myself and our appointed person, takes time. So hopefully by January, they would have a rebuttal to that.
Thank you.
Okay, I will at least make those updates, so then if I do come back with the current one, they are updated. Well, it makes me think maybe if they say no, we'll wait. Going back and forth. Our village cemetery expansion took some time. We now have our boundary survey. We had gone to make a motion to expand these boundaries. Under our wise legal counsel suggested we get a survey with actual meets and bounds put in place so we know exactly what we are sectioning off. That has been done. In here, in your packet, I had the first, the original August 19th quote, and then followed by currently what I just got, our December 10th information.
Did this come back as expected, like, as far as, you don't know? Okay.
I mean, it's the portion of land that we're speaking of.
So the engineering that came back talks about the 2 catch basins that come from the parking lot that currently flow into that retention area. And I have had a conversation with the construction happening at the middle school site with Barton Mallow, and they have confirmed that there is at least an additional 2 structures or drains coming from the school property by the skate park that underneath the walkway that are tied into that. So, I mean, even just with catch basins and it being a natural retention area, I don't think we can just fill that.
And those are old, like they've been there?
They're existing and currently in use.
Okay, so they didn't just add them with
No.
this construction?
I can read you, for everyone's inclusion. Our office has been working with the Romeo Cemetery Board of Trustees to develop conceptual plans to expand the existing cemetery into the 13th addition located in the rear of the cemetery and includes a stormwater retention pond. The retention pond is currently being used to store debris generated from the Department of Public Works and is not used to retain stormwater. Our office has researched the use of the retention pond and have identified one storm sewer that minimally discharges into the retention pond that collects stormwater from two catch basins located in the paved parking lot to the north of the cemetery. It was noted that an additional storm sewer discharged into the pond near the water tower. However, through recent research, has been identified to be bulkheaded, and stormwater now discharges to a system north of the water tower. It has been determined that the storm sewer that does discharge into the pond can be rerouted to a nearby storm sewer to the north, and the water tower, as part of the development of the 13th addition and the cemetery, can be expanded upon within the retention pond area. So that was their due diligence research of what they found. So sounds similar to what you're saying. The school is responsible for their own stormwater, and it does not mean that we cannot use our property because of their storm sewer. Obviously, we would have to take actions to divert it. Well, actually, they would, if we want to use our property. But
So they're obligated to divert the, I mean, obviously they did it probably without our permission at one point or another,
Well,
or?
this is so far back that
I mean,
I
with it
wouldn't
there,
say
I
it
would
was
think
done
they.
without permission. And I'm sure, someone has probably talked to Mark, but Mark, could you chime in? I know we've had discussions in the past about other drains and natural running, and I don't think that's the case, that we can just do what we want and tell them too bad. I mean, if you're downstream from something, you can't just fill it and say you're out of luck.
Sort of. One thing which has come up over the years is the school's ability to run its water from its property onto the village's property. And the principle in the law is the lower estate, the servient estate, has to accept the natural flow of water from the higher or the dominant estate. And an easy way to think about that is you have a flat table, and I turn over my glass of water, and the water spills out and runs onto the floor. But if I take the same amount of water and shoot it through a straw, the intensity and the volume might be the same, but the intensity and the flow of the water is going to be different. And and it's very common in development, whether it's subdivisions, whether it's commercial developments, industrial, you have to do something with your surface runoff, the water. It rains on your building roof, it runs down into your parking lot, it's got to go somewhere. You can't just, without your neighbor's permission, I mean, again, the natural flow of water, yes, you don't need permission. But if you're changing the flow of water, you're enhancing it, you're diverting it, you can't just divert it to any place you want on your neighbor's property. And so one of my concerns over the years is the natural lay of the land, the school property to the west of the cemetery seems to be higher than the cemetery property. And so the natural flow of water, the cemetery would have to accept it. But I don't know if there's ever been an easement granted by the village so that the school could collect the water in these catch basins and then divert it someplace. If there is, the village would have to honor that. If there isn't, I'm not advising you to just go out and stick a cookie or a plug in that line to stop the flow of water. But the question is, I think a legitimate one, is what responsibility does the village have to accept the water, and what right does the school have to run the water onto the village property? I've not been behind the middle school in some time, probably since maybe October or September, but it looks like, and I don't know if it's changed, but it looks like they're greatly raising the ground behind the middle school to the north. Again, they may have leveled it since I was last rooting around back there, but if they're changing the flow of water, either as to intensity or direction, I think you have a legitimate position to ask them how and why they think they get to run that onto the village property. And if there is a right to it, then again, you have to accept the responsibility. But if it's just because the school says, well, our property's higher, we're making it higher, and you've got to take it, again, the natural flow, yes. The concentrated, redirected, different issue.
So I guess before we jump in and just say, let's just start doing this, I think we got some due diligence to do and looking in, talking maybe with Eagle and Macomb County Drain and looking at what's in place. And I don't know if that's been done. I don't think I was here when this first was talked about.
I know, I don't
come
think
up to
this
the-
is related, but sometimes things that seem unrelated, down the road, you look and go, oh, wow, okay, maybe that is related. There was a time when the middle school was a high school, and they were having, I don't know whether it was because of the iron in their water. I don't know if they're on village water. Maybe they are. Tim may know.
They are.
But there was a time where they were having trouble with pressurizing their fire suppression system. And I don't know whether the village agreed to give them more water or change where the water was provided, or I don't know what happened with that. If it's related to this, I doubt it. But sometimes when you're looking at one thing, you find answers to other things.
It seems to me they did something, run a line from the water tower directly to the high school, or?
Yeah, I don't know how they did that.
Years ago, they did run a new main from the water tower to the high school for fire suppression. Because the old main that they had was only a 4-inch main and wouldn't support fire suppression. So they did pay to run a new line to the school. And speaking on this retention pond,
Just so it's on the, yeah, we get it recorded. I appreciate it. Thank you.
speaking with the school, I actually talked to Chris Storm from the schools today about the new retention pond there. So the discharge line that's there now may not be needed. Because what they had in the past is a underground retention pond, and that was basically an overflow.
Yeah.
So if the retention pond couldn't handle, their underground retention pond couldn't handle all the rainwater, then it would overflow into the retention pond. And I did speak with one of the previous clerks about that situation, and supposedly in an orange binder, folder, somewhere's in the office, there is an agreement allowing the school to discharge into the retention pond. But Chris was gonna
I
check
cannot guarantee that any documents are still in that office.
with Barton Mallow, the contractors that did the work up there, or Simone, whoever it was, if it is still needed, because they did redo their underground retention pond, so it may not even be needed.
And when I talked to Barton Mallow today, Mr. Tolis, he verified that it was. They tried to revert and reroute everything they could, but those two lines were still in place, and they had to use them.
Tim, would that be going back to Marion's timeframe?
Yes.
So I mean, the solution is gonna be, we just reroute it on the north end by that water tower portion, but who pays
No,
for it?
no, that's separate. That's different. The water tower's on the other side.
Oh, that one's from the
This
parking
is
lot
on the school
north.
side.
On like that's the long side of the old football
Yeah,
field.
and then the catch basins on the parking lot, which that's somewhat ours anyways, I think.
Yeah, we own essentially their
portion.
first
On Morton
parking
Street,
spot all the way back.
No,
Or is
up
that-
behind us here,
Up behind the school there, yeah.
up the hill here.
Well, what would the council like to do?
I definitely think we need more information before we jump into moving forward with a project like this. I hate to see time and money and everything be spent and filling in, and or we can't do it anyways.
And maybe we can see if we can get the engineering documentation from Barton Mallow,
Yeah,
that
I mean,
what justifies the overflow.
Well,
still
and it
being
makes me
needed, or-
question, what did AEW,
Yeah,
did they not make a phone call?
yeah.
I don't, doesn't really seem like it.
And it's possible, based on what Mr. Mitt said, I mean, it's possible there was an agreement in some formal form, typically interest in property, which an easement, whether it's for drainage or ingress and egress, those are recorded. But sometimes they're not. And so it's possible there is an agreement that hasn't been recorded into the chain of title. But if there's an agreement, both sides have to honor it. Whatever the terms of it are, if, assuming that it's legitimate, and I would have no reason to think it wouldn't be, both sides are bound by it. So the village may be bound to accept the discharge, the school may have the right to discharge it. But I really think that to the extent you can, sometimes things are just not findable, but to the extent you can, I think that bears another, I think that's worthy of another pass over the field.
So Mark, if neither party can find the agreement, is it just considered no agreement?
No, it's a lawyer's holiday. It's, let's have
We're
at
not
it.
taking New York on this one.
No, and again, to establish an interest in writing, to establish an interest in property, it has to, that for more than a year, it has to be in writing. So if none of that exists, the village can, if it chooses, and I'm not encouraging taking a position at all at this point, but if there's no writing, the village, if there's nothing in writing to establish the school's ability to discharge its stormwater or water runoff to the village, then you can take the position that you don't have to accept that water.
I wonder if they would be open to exchanging properties.
Yeah. Megan, would you be willing to allow the cemetery board to speak?
Would the board
I think
like,
it's fine, yeah.
I would be
Okay.
fine with Debbie speaking. Cemetery
Debbie
board.
is the chair of our cemetery board.
Just a quick question, because he's made calls, I've made calls, AEW's made calls. We get information from Tim. I had asked last February to form like a committee or something so that we're all kind of on the same page, getting the same information. So who's in charge of getting this information at this point? Like, who's going to move forward with this?
We paid
Should we-
AEW
should
to
we-
do it.
I know, like-
And now we're
Yeah,
back,
exactly.
we're
We've
back
got,
at square
like-
one.
So it's kind of like, I just kind of wondering who can take the charge here, so,
If you would like the village to do it, we can do it.
yeah, because it's not ours yet. So,
Yeah.
Right.
like, that's why I've kind of stepped back, because it's kind of in your.
I kind of want to go
so-
have a conversation with AEW and find out what they have been doing. I mean,
Right.
as you can see, we had our initial proposal in August, and we were just getting this back in December.
Yeah, and they come to our meetings and act like it's all a go, and let's make plans, and then we're like, wait, we don't even have this. This isn't even ours to make decisions.
I
Yeah.
would like to see some more information, just what they typed,
Yeah.
that this is what we got from the drain, this is what we got from Eagle. We've talked to the school, and they've done their due diligence and
Yeah, so we
provided
just
a
need,
complete
who
report.
takes charge, who's taking it?
I mean, that's a big thing, you know.
Well, they
They're
even,
filling it with
they even
gas
put in
pumps.
here, upon approval by the village council to turn this portion of the cemetery property over to the cemetery board of trustees, our office will work with the cemetery board of trustees to identify the best layout, blah, blah. Seems like they're assuming a
jumping
bit
in.
much there.
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of always saying, well, we don't even have it yet, so we ought to wait on that part. But somebody needs to kind of like, one person or a committee or something, so that it's not everybody getting separate information. That's what I was just wondering.
I can follow up with AEW and make phone calls and I don't want
I can,
to see a bill.
I know, right.
Because why, now
Yeah, same
we're going to
here.
go.
Yeah, exactly,
I can see if I can get any information
just
from
kind of in
Barton
limbo, so.
Right, but I
and
mean,
forward that.
we hired AEW to do this, so what obligation do we have to heed the information we got from Barton Mallow's engineering firm? I mean, are we acting in
Yeah, Barton
good
Mallow's
conscience just to
looking
fill it
out.
in, because our engineer said it was, or our survey said it was fine too? I
Is
mean,
there, like,
we're hearing it from a third party as far as we're concerned.
Barton Mallow?
Like I said, I can talk to them tomorrow. I see these guys every day.
And Barton Mallow's looking out for the school. They're not looking out for us, so they're going to say what they need to say.
So
and-
it just seems like somebody needs to kind of take charge of it and be the person to gather the
Well,
information.
we thought we
or
did.
a committee or something. I would gladly help with, but as the cemetery board, we can't really do anything right
Right.
now.
I think we can do it.
Well, maybe, if you see him every day, maybe you can get something
Yeah,
in
just-
writing from Barton, not
Yeah,
in writing.
I'll ask them and see
Yeah.
if they can give me some information on what they've got. Because they probably
you want
got
more?
drawings from before and showing the existing already
Right.
in place.
But really, our gripes with AEW on either why didn't you catch this, or what information do you have to
What
contradict?
research did you do? Clerk Lucero has a point here as your liaison to the board.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks.
I mean, I can definitely, at the next meeting, voice the displeasure of the board and the work that has not been done, that should have been done, things that should have been caught.
And they
I don't know if I
might-
necessarily am stepping up saying I want to quarterback this, but because this, on its face, it's proving to be a nightmare with multiple parts asking the same questions and not getting an answer. So I could definitely throw my hat into the pile, but yeah, as their liaison, I have no problem holding their feet to the fire too at meetings and being another party, reaching out to them and kind of being another thorn in their side to make sure they give us answers.
And I mean, maybe it's not displeasure, maybe they did do that research and they're just not conveying it well,
They just-
or,
Or they're not finding it.
Yeah.
And it would be, from the school side of it, it would be unusual for Barton Mallow to reroute lines or reconstruct the underground retention pond, divert the water without having an easement on which to do that. And so I realize sometimes you do things for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you just keep doing it because that's the way you've always done it. But, I mean, not to the village, but Barton Mallow has a responsibility to the school to make sure that that they have a legal basis to divert the water in the direction or to the place they're doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, the village will,
And get it back to them.
the village will continue to spearhead and, okay, so no action. Moving into our new business, we have our president pro tem appointment. Well, I was on the phone with trustee Fowler this evening when he said he was unable to make it due to illness. He did request that we would table this until he was here, given that he's the current pro tem. I'm putting that request out.
Motion to
Whatever the
table.
board wants to do, the board,
I'll make a motion to table based on Zach's
Or-
request.
okay. We have a motion by Parker, support by Bartholomew to table to January. Is that appropriate to January?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're moving into our calendar of recognized holidays for the year. Same holidays as last year. Dates moved a little bit.
Motion to approve the proposed 2025 holiday calendar.
Support?
We have a motion by Parker, support by Edwards, accepting calendar as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Apologize, didn't think anyone had any discussion. Moving into our 2025 annual appointments. Starting off at the top, we have our General Supervisor of Public Works and Water Program Manager, Tim Metz. We have our Supervisor of the Wastewater Treatment Plant and the Wastewater Program Manager, Al Lapierre. Our Chief of Police, Kevin Roy. Our Village Attorney and our Village Prosecutor, Mark Clark. Our Building Heating Inspector, Ken Borzi. Electrical Inspector, Tim Dillon. Building Inspector, Michael Bomarito. Our Noxious Weed Inspector, Kevin Roy. And the Street Administrator, myself. We do have here for the Cemetery Board, a reappointment of Sandra Brooks. And I did choose to do a new appointment of James Bramble. For our HDC, we have May Morrison, a reappointment. We have reappointment on the Planning Commission of Bill Grandstaff, Bill Parker, Janice Fowler. We did have a fourth, did not wish to be reappointed. So in the meantime, he will sit. I did receive on Friday, after the fact, a submission for that seat. So should January come and he's the only one, we'll appoint another member. If anyone's interested in the Planning Commission, please put in a letter of interest. For our tree board, we have reappointments of our board, Betty Cassidy, Clark Stowe, Sharon Smith, and William Smith.
Is there no reappointments or for the DDA?
There's none, I didn't put on here anybody that didn't need to. There is an opening, but there's
Oh, so
no
everyone's currently,
reappointments.
no one, okay. That's-
Same as the,
There's at least one.
same as ZBA. There was no need for reappointment. We had done those 2 appointments already, took care of that board. We had a board member actually falling off. One filled in for Jamie, the other one filled in the one that fell off. So ZBA is good, it's not on here.
Just getting a little picky here. The Building and Heating Inspector, building is kind of incorrectly spelled.
I see that, thank you. We can switch it around.
That's my job, yeah.
Oh, that's yes, you're right. That usually is your job. I don't know why I've caught 2 of them. Wow.
Catching on.
It's
So
rubbing off.
the tree board all comes off at the same time. Can we give any consideration to staggering that a little? I don't know how we would do that, but sitting here looking at it on paper, we're going to lose them all at once.
Is that in the tree board's rules or procedures? Or?
Usually that sort of staggered gets instituted at the beginning of a committee and commission. Some of these boards have been running for a long time, and when I came in, for instance, Sandra Brooks, she was actually reappointed twice in 2 years, so it was which one do I actually go with here? And I don't know if we have that purview. Mr. Clark, do we have the purview to change and stagger?
You can, but it may be in your tree board ordinance, although I don't know if I can find it quickly, but I will look. Elevator music while I go through here, please.
As we approve and we can change in the future, right? If we appoint, then
It's also the
change terms.
first time in a long time that we've had a full tree board and an active tree board actively taking their board and their duties seriously. Very excited for this survey coming our way.
That's why we're talking about appointments. I had, and I think we've discussed it before, concerns brought to my attention about the ZBA and planning sharing multiple
It's taken care of now.
same members.
At this point, we would end up with 2 planning commission members. There's not a majority.
The law, I think, is worded, as I looked it up after it was brought to my attention again, that you can have 1 member on both in a regular seat. So I don't believe that could be a chair on either side that sits on one or both. Is the way the law was written.
We do have a chair in the ZBA that sits on both.
I'd have to look up the wording, law.
So it was concern that was brought, if we can facilitate that. And
If it is, then we'll have to ask people to step down and move around.
I mean, they choose their own chair, so they would have to be the ones conscious of not selecting that person. I don't know if that's anything we could do at this table anyway, right?
It could probably be something as simple as them just reholding elections again.
For the
Yeah.
chair, but then
Yeah.
still the fact that it's only supposed to be one.
Yeah, someone
Sits
would
on
have to step down.
both, Yeah.
Your current ordinance, at least I believe it's current, I always use this big old hard copy book. I don't know if there have
Jamie's
been-
working on it.
if there have been updates, but in any event, in section 14-142 of your tree board ordinance, it calls or talks about terms of office. The terms of the 5 persons appointed to the village tree board shall be staggered and for 3 years each. If a vacancy shall occur during the term of any member, his successor shall be appointed, you can tell how old it is because it doesn't say his or her. Successor shall be appointed by the village president with the advice and consent of the village council to fill the unexpired portion. Members of the tree board shall serve without compensation. So you already have a staggered appointment set up there. So if all of these, you can decide how you want to do the math, but it looks like they're all 4 set for 3 terms, 3 years as the ordinance provides. So I suppose you could, because they're staggered for 3 years, I suppose you could appoint 1 for 1 year, 1 for 2 years, 2 for 3. I don't want to tell you how to do the math.
Does it have to be
but-
an even 3-year stagger, or can we just take the first 2 on the list?
2 and 2.
And have them expire in 27, and the next 2 expire in 28, then they're a year off?
Yes.
And then.
Yeah,
flow
that's
back
why I
to
say
the
I don't
current
want to tell you
3-year
how to
after
do
that?
the stagger, but you have the ability to stagger it. In fact, it says shall be staggered, so.
Yeah.
But they weren't all, I'm sorry, Mark.
No, no. that's-
They weren't all appointed at the same time, were they?
Well, those terms were. Betty filled in a term, there was 2 people. There was, this how, over the years, somehow people got full terms when they should have gotten partials, and then it's all become this, we have 1 and 4. It's just how it's evolved, people haven't kept track of it. So I was fulfilling, giving everyone another 3-year term, of which they're entitled to, and these are people who are, been on the tree board and actually want to help with the trees.
Yeah.
So I didn't want anyone for any less amount of time.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 Village of Romeo annual appointments as presented with the change to the tree board, and just because of the first 2, Betty Cassidy going from January 2025 to January 2027, and Clark Stow from January 2025 to January 2027, creating a stagger in the tree board. And then remaining 3 years then after.
Support?
We have a motion by Parker, support by Bartholomew. I don't recall what year the 5th one is, so assuming that doesn't make a 3 and a 2, but at least they're staggered at that point.
Yeah.
A little more even. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? There are none opposed. Well, everybody, that brings us to adjournment at 8:37. Do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Support?
Motion by Parker, support by Rousseau. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.